So Dreamhost is we're a web hosting and now a cloud services company, and so we basically serve the entrepreneur and developer market, and that means for us it's the world's entrepreneurs and developers. So that's everyone from a content creator, people who want to have a WordPress blog, through to more sophisticated websites, through to web apps and mobile apps and so on. So our interest in OpenStack is, a couple of years ago we basically decided that, in fact, we're getting a lot of requests from our customers to launch cloud services, similar to Amazon, and we looked around at the different platforms. We've always been a big open source company, and so we selected OpenStack. We started coding and contributing to OpenStack about a year and a half ago, and this morning we launched Dream Compute, which is our OpenStack powered cloud.
Now, just to argue devil's advocate, because I know the cloud is a mature term.
Sure.
But 5 years ago, a company like yours, you would have had colo, you would have had virtual server hosting, and then traditional shared hosting.
Yes.
So when you compare those now legacy elements, as of today, to now what cloud does, how does that change your business, and how does that offer new choices to customers?
So we see ourselves as, in some extent, having done cloud for quite some time. We've got virtual private servers, we've got shared, we've got dedicated. Customers can move those workloads across those different services. The big difference is, of course, once you get into the detail behind cloud and the fact that you're really talking about distributed scale-out storage behind cloud, which we use Ceph for, and when you're talking about being able to truly virtualize pods of infrastructure instead of just a server. That's a big difference in terms of efficiencies of our infrastructure, but it's also it's a big difference because it's the way the end user chooses to consume the services. So we don't see shared hosting or virtual private server hosting going away. We see it continuing strong into the future because there's a lot of customers that want the assurance of the cost that they're going to pay, and their workloads are not necessarily highly variable, but there's a lot of folks, of course, now, particularly with web application hosting, mobile hosting and so on, where they want that burstability, that scalability, and that's where cloud really comes into its own.
The scalable workloads. So then for the virtual hosts and the like, will you change that platform so that from your own infrastructure perspective, you can manage that better? Or does that stay the same legacy platform, whatever it was you were using, with probably Plesk control panels and all these other kinds of things?
We have our own control panel, which is fantastic. So we get to customize that and so on. But so in the short term, no. In the short term, we're going to continue with our virtual private server hosting. It works great for that particular target segment of customer base. I think over the long term, if you're looking out maybe 4 to 5 years, we do think that whether it's shared hosts or VPS hosting will essentially be running on OpenStack style cloud infrastructure. And so that's another reason that we're making a big investment in engineering and know-how and so on, is that we want to be experts in this new infrastructure so that as over time, it makes sense to migrate those other services to the cloud backend, the OpenStack-based cloud backend, we'll do that.
Now, from a cost perspective, because I know you got a lot of smaller, medium-sized businesses who use, what is it, $8 a month shared hosting, all these kinds of things. As you're trying to improve margins and other kinds of business kind of drivers, how do you make the pitch to them to move to the cloud, if you need to or you don't?
Good question. We don't really see ourselves. Dreamhost has never really been a company where we upsell or oversell our customers on new services or products, where in fact we barely put anything out there in newsletters and so on. So what we're really doing is we'll be carefully explaining, particularly to those customers that have the use cases that make sense. The web applications where they're going to go from 0 or 10 to maybe 10,000, 100,000 visits a day. So the startups in our environment, companies like that, we'll explain to them the benefits. But what we're also going to do, interestingly, with our business model is you'll see us coming out with pricing that is simplified and that is tuned to that kind of user, where we still give them the kind of web hosting pricing model security, where they're not all of a sudden get hit with tens of thousands of dollars of cost because of bandwidth and so on. So that's where you'll see a lot of innovation from Dreamhost. We believe in freedom and giving access to these services, so we're going to be doing a lot in that area.
given your history, given the direction that you want to take the company, how do you differentiate? Is it just a question of a certain core focus? Is it something else? Is it the Ceph nature on the back end side and that relationship that you have?
So there's really two ways we want to differentiate. One is through the technology and the fact that we always aim to put flexible APIs and basically put the power of these platforms in the hands of the customer. So there's a lot of things we do, for example, shared hosting that many other hosts don't do. We'll do shell access with shared and so on. And what we're doing on the cloud side through the combination of Ceph, distributed storage for block storage, where we're able to drive down cost, and then networking, where we're innovating a lot in networking, not only with partners like Nicira, but also our own Akanda project that we've developed. We're going to put the power in the hands of the web developer to very simply architect their applications, secure it all, and then run it and do it in a very automated fashion. The other way that we look to differentiate is essentially through being a great resource for the customer to understand how they should use this service. So all of our tech support team essentially are developers themselves. That's the people that we hire. They're not customer service support type typical folks. So we look to basically help them be successful in getting their applications up on the cloud and just providing stellar support to our customers. And I think the combination of the two will help us to be a key contributor to the growth of OpenStack-based clouds. But we also believe that it truly is that federated ecosystem which has the potential to create a whole new wave of unlocking this infrastructure for everyone from enterprise to very small business. And we just want to be a part of that. We think that we're not so much competing with each other in the OpenStack world. What we're really competing with is ubiquity of using cloud services and innovation in the business models around cloud services, from this point for the next 10 to 20 years.
Where do you see OpenStack headed in the next 6 months? Is there anything that's got you really excited from a Dreamhost perspective or just from a OpenStack contributor perspective?
I think the next 6 months is all about adoption. That's what it's about. I mean, there's going to be feature enhancements. There's going to be all sorts of things that are going into Grizzly. But the fact is that OpenStack now is a reliable, comprehensive cloud platform with all of the elements that you need to be able to run either a private cloud or a public cloud. And so I really see the next 6 to 12 months as being about moving, whether they're enterprise or service providers and so on, from proof of concept, try it out, test it, development, but actually moving them into production, getting them into production implementations globally. And I think that if we can do that, we will start to realize the true benefits of OpenStack in terms of being potentially a federated cloud. The ability for the end user to be able to move workloads, geographically from one place in the world to another place in the world, between providers, from private to public, and so on. So I tend to come at it from that angle, and perhaps less so from the the feature set, the product roadmap side of things, and just say, to me, the next year is all about adoption.